various parcels that, the ones that have a square block around them, for instance, parcel number 3, which is Fairway Landing Townhome, that square designation indicates that property, individual property, abuts the golf course. So there's a variety of those. If we go, and again, if you want me to go through each one of these individually, I'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, just quickly, to run through the ones that immediately abut the golf course, if you would.
Okay, so parcel number, on this designation, parcel 3, Fairway Landings, which is residential. The Fairway Apartments, which shows up as number 4, that was once originally part of the golf course. It was supposed to be driving range. Driving wasn't needed for driving range, and it was sold as a residential parcel for residential development. That's since been condominium. That's a condominium. It's not fee simple. Parcel 5 is a commercial office building. That is Southpointe Miller Limited, which is where Solution. You may know that as Solutions Consulting, which abuts the golf course. 7 are 2 Millcraft buildings, which is Southpointe Plaza 1 and Southpointe Plaza 2. And then there's the Ironwood subdivision, showing on this map as the number 9. And that's comprised of the majority of single-family lots and patio lots, which are all essentially single-family detached. And then we have parcel 11, and that is Southpointe Commons. We talked about that previously. That was a 1.7 acre piece of property that was subdivided out of the golf course for commercial, but it does in fact abut the golf course. Parcel 14 on here doesn't have a square. We probably should put a dash square. That was deeded to the Southpointe property owners and is deed restricted for preservation, but it does abut the golf course. So I'll note that for you. And then if you run across to the next column, parcel 24 is Baltec. That abuts hole number 4. 25 is the Aegis building or Digital Concepts, which is also on parcel or golf hole number 4. Same with number 28, which is Centermark headquarters, abuts the golf course. 31 is, it says Telco. That was the original tenant in that building, but that's 350 CW Associates. And that parcel is on hole number 3. And then Champion Moving on 32, which I believe is on 3 and 2. And then 37 is the Brickmont building. Brickmont is a commercial building. And 37 is, I'm sorry, it's an office building, which is on hole number 2 and 3. And then we have Horizon Properties, used to be the Crown Castle headquarters on parcel 43, and that's on hole number 10. And
that's an office building.
And that's an office building. And then 57 on this exhibit is the Isoplex. Isoplex is an industrial use, and then we have several parcels up on top of the hill on the north end of the project, parcel 64, 501 Corporate Drive, which is on hole number 12. 10, yeah, hole number 12. And then
that is an office building.
That's an office building as well. And then 67 Summit Plaza Holdings, that is also an office building where Waynesburg University used to be. And Southpointe Fitness, Crown Castle has recently purchased that building, and that is an office building on the golf course, as well as their headquarters, which on this map shows up as parcel 70, which is an office building.
Just generally, the physical characteristics of the golf course property, are those characteristics similar to the physical characteristics of the surrounding properties?
Yeah, the entire property is rolling hills, and some of those areas have been flat and some have not. But yeah, it's the same general property throughout, whether it's golf course, commercial, residential, or industrial.
And if any portion of the golf course were to be changed at any point in time, is there sufficient infrastructure roads available to accommodate that development in terms of your view as a developer?
Yeah, there are roads that abut the golf course as well as all utilities.
Okay. And then next, we're going to turn to Exhibit 4. And you alluded to prior properties and parcels that had been severed from the golf course in the past and are now commercial development. Could you go through those very quickly for the board and explain, put into the record what some of those developments were that, for properties that were previously part of the golf course.
Sure. Did you mean 14? I think you said.
Yes, I did mean 14.
Yeah, this says K on all.
It's going to be 14 in the new one.
I'll wait till everybody gets there, because I have to kind of walk you through this. So if we start on the lower left, there are two photographs in the lower left, and both of those represent parcel 57, which is the isoplex. So 0.7 acres was subdivided and deeded to the isoplex ownership that facilitated parking in their recreational areas. That came out of what was known in the subdivision as golf course parcel 11B. And then if you go to the two photographs on the upper left, the first one on the far left is a little bit over 3 acre parcel that was deeded from the golf course and subdivided for the stormwater management facility that allows Southpointe 2 to be developed. Again,
So without that subdivision or of that parcel, Southpointe 2 could have never happened.
That's correct. And then just to the right of that is the building that we talked about. It's Telco, which is 350 CW Associates, is the partnership that owns that building. A total of almost 4 acres, 3.93 acres, was subdivided and transferred to that property owner to facilitate construction of that building, an office building on the golf course. And that came out of golf course parcel 11B. And then there are two photographs on the lower right. The one on the most left of those is known as Southpointe Commons. That was 1.73 acres that was subdivided probably back in 1995 by Millcraft to build Southpointe Commons, which is about a 7,000 square foot retail building. And it was golf course property that didn't, in fact, none of the golf course had to be modified for that particular change. And then the one on the bottom right is a 2.5 acre parcel that is the UFCW Union Building, an office building, 45,000 square feet, that was subdivided and transferred to the ownership to the union who owns that building to build their golf course, build their office building, which is on the golf course.
And for each of these, the land use category would have had been changed through the township to permit those developments, isn't that correct?
That's correct for the office buildings. I'm not sure if the WCA had a land use change for the stormwater facility.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so all of these buildings and developments were approved previously by the township?
Yes.
Okay. Briefly moving to Exhibit 15, which are some series of deeds from the Southpointe Golf Club to various entities. Can you just briefly run through them and identify them for the board for 15A?
Yes, so I believe A, B, and C all are the transfer from the golf club to what was known as the Telco building or the Delphia building, which here shows up in the deed as 350 SD Associates. That was for an office building that was built on a parcel that needed additional acreage. And all three of these deeds add up to be that 3.93 acres. So A is on the acreage one here. .46 acres. And then if you go to B, same thing, transfer from Southpointe Golf Club to 350 CW Associates. This occurred back in 1999, and this piece of property was .63 acres. And if you go to C, same thing, Southpointe Golf Club being transferred to 350 CW Associates for an office building. And this was for fractional piece of acreage, if I can find it. 3.84 acres. So all those add up to 3.93, which takes us to D. D was a transfer from Southpointe Golf Club to Caroline Nowatka, and this was for an ancillary structure on a residential lot, likely, I believe it was a retaining wall on the golf course. And then if you go to E, this was the very important transfer from the golf club to the Washington County Authority to facilitate the development of Southpointe 2. It's one of the main drainage structures that would catch all the drainage from the Consol building, the Fairmont building, and that northern part of Southpointe to 225 acres. So this transfer was in 2006 and contained 3.061 acres. And we'll go to F. And that is a transfer from Southpointe Golf Club to Wooden Irons in 2012, and that was for a piece of property for the development of, I believe, the new Ironwood subdivision, Ironwood 2. And I believe that's it.
And isn't it true that, so each of these properties that you briefly described were all previously part of the golf course, the outdoor recreational facility, correct?
That's correct.
And the effect of subdividing these didn't impact the integrity of the golf course or its operations?
No, not whatsoever, no.
Could I interrupt 1 second? Mr. Swisher, could you just clarify for us, out of those 6 parcels, which one in your recollection actually required a land use category change? I know you alluded
The 6 that I just went over, the 6 photographs?
Yeah, well, you alluded to
Well, first of all, Southpointe Golf Club didn't do the land use change. This would have been done by the property owner. So in the first case, the Pittsburgh Penguins were the developer of the Icerplex, not the golf club. So I don't know what process they went through. I'm assuming that they weren't allowed to build an industrial building on a residential property without going through the proper channels. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't let them build a building and get a building permit. So I'm assuming that was the process.
well, I was just asking the ones that you were aware of, out of these 6.
Well, none of these are properties that were developed by the golf club. You would have to ask the property owner. The Washington County Authority would have done the stormwater pond, so I'm assuming they came through you and went through the proper channels. 350 CW Associates was, if you remember, Larry Welsh and Ralph Andy, who developed that building in I think it was probably 1999, 2000, thereabouts. So they were the developer. I'm assuming they came over here and went through the process to build that building. Same with the Southpointe Commons. That was Millcraft. Millcraft Investments did that back in probably '94. And then the UFCW was a building that's owned by the union. So I'm assuming all those came through the township. Otherwise, how would you build a commercial office building on residential land use? Otherwise, they're in violation, I would guess, which I don't think they are.
That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So isn't it true that an affiliate of Southpointe Golf Club called Southpointe Medical Associates currently has an application pending, or applications pending for subdivision, land development, and conditional use?
Yes.
And just briefly, what is that used for, and can you describe that to the board?
Well, that development was, Southpointe has been trying to develop a daycare center and a facility for social needs for 15 years. Just can't find the right piece of property. And as you well know, golf courses aren't the most viable businesses these days. So the marriage between trying to do a Hope Learning Center, which basically is more of a social needs, they do education for special needs children, mostly children with autism that are K through 12. And they work with all the school districts. So we try to fit them into Southpointe Town Center by the park. Just wouldn't work. That's where they wanted to be, but to try to make that use work with all the traffic, on-street parking, and all the other uses and office buildings, it didn't happen. So with the struggles that the golf club has financially, the marriage between trying to do